Welcome to Recap King. In this video, we will explain The Outlaws. This movie tells the story of Jang Chen, a mysterious person who comes from China. He came to Korea and became a ruthless loan shark in the city of Seoul. On the other hand, there is a strong, brave, good at martial arts, and unrivaled policeman, Ma Seok-do. He's been a detective in the Chinatown area of Seoul for a long time. He has ambitions to create peace where he lives. Seok-do must face Jang Chen, who has killed several people, including those closest to him. Will Seok-do succeed in creating peace in the place he lives? And can Seok-do fight Jang Chen, who disturbs the peace where he lives? Let's find out in The Outlaws. The Outlaws tells the story of a policeman named Ma Seok-do who is assigned to a Chinatown area in the Garibong District. This district is known for its high crime rate and the large number of gangster groups that rule this district. That day, Seok-do is conducting an investigation at one of the markets in Chinatown. Suddenly, a huge fuss was caused by a fight between two male gangster members. Seok-do immediately removed the knife from them and stopped the fight. After handing the gangsters over to the police on duty, Seok-do immediately went to the crime scene he was investigating. In this case, there has been a stabbing incident against a man who is a member of a gangster group called the Venom Gang. It can be seen from the snake tattoo on the man's neck. Turning to another place, at the Venom Gang base camp, Venom Gang's assistant named Du Seung-woo was busy making phone calls in a corridor where many female sex workers were seen hanging around. Seung-woo then tells the boss of the Venom Gang named On Sung-tae that their group is ready. It turned out that their group was preparing to take revenge on the Isu Gang, who had stabbed their group members. Seung-woo then ordered the other members to carry out their plan. When the Venom Gang members were walking toward the Isu Gang, they were stopped by Seok-do and other police colleagues. Seok-do asks all Venom Gang members to return to their base camp and cancel their action, but they all ignore him. Even one of them spat in front of him. Before the commotion becomes bigger and bigger, Venom Gang boss, Sung-tae, appears and talks to Seok-do. He explained that the suspect of the stabbing of its members was the Isu Gang. Officer Seok-do immediately went to a gambling place operated by the Isu Gang, which was then the base camp of the Isu Gang. Seok-do managed to find the Isu Gang and the suspects of the stabbing of the Venom Gang members. When one of the Isu Gang members is about to attack Seok-do, Seok-do slams him down quickly and chases the stabber who tried to escape. After finding the suspect, Seok-do was threatened with a knife by the suspect, but calmly, he asked him to put down the knife. Because the suspect continued to refuse and put up a fight, Seok-do was forced to hit the suspect in the face until he unconsciously passed out. The scene switches to the moment when three Chinese men execute one of Venom Gang members because of a debt repayment problem. The leader of the three Chinese men was named Jang Chen. The Venom Gang member failed to pay his debt because he was forced to pay 20 times the amount he owed. Jang Chen and his two henchmen tortured the man ruthlessly and mercilessly. Jang Chen hit the man's hand with the hammer repeatedly. Meanwhile, at the police station, Seok-do is busy interrogating the arrested stabbing suspect. At the same time, Captain John, the head of the investigative unit, walks into the room and screams in anger at his division's declining performance. He is fed up with commotions caused by the gangster group in their district, and many of them still haven't been caught. Seok-do becomes frustrating, and he decides to catch those gangsters. Seok-do and the other police officers visit the gambling place of the Isu Gang. Seok-do was blocked by members of the Isu Gang, but he paralyzed him quickly. Seok-do manages to meet the boss of the Isu Gang named Jang Isu and forces him to make peace with the Venom Gang. Seok-do brings together the two leaders of the Isu and the Venom Gang to make a peace agreement. Even though they had refused, they were able to make peace with a bit of compulsion in the end. Seok-do even had time to take pictures of them as proof that the two groups had made peace. He hopes that the harmony between the two gangster groups will reduce the commotion in this district. Shortly after, On Sung-tae got a call from one of his members who had previously been abused by Jang Chen and his two henchmen. Every night, Sung-tae and several members of the Venom Gang come to see Jang Chen take revenge for torturing his gang members. Sung-tae immediately kicked the table and asked how much debt the members had when they got there. After Sung-tae hears the unreasonable amount of interest his member owed, he spits on the bill and asks Jang Chen to collect the debt politely and properly. Unexpectedly, Jang Chen quickly slashed Sung-tae's neck and stabbed his body until he fell down. Seeing this, all the Venom Gang members fell silent and didn't dare to put up any resistance. After witnessing their boss being killed by Jang Chen and his two henchmen, the rest of the Venom Gang members became scared. Jang Chen ordered the Venom Gang's assistant, Seung-woo, and the other members to join him and obey his orders. Since that night, the leadership of the Venom Gang shifted to Jang Chen's hands. The scene changes to Seok-do's moment at a karaoke place. He purposely came there to meet the boss of the karaoke place owner. The karaoke owner invites Seok-do to lobby him so that his karaoke place is safe from police inspection operations. That night Seok-do was made drunk and asleep. At the same time, Jang Chen and his 2 henchmen came to the karaoke place to party and drink together. When Seok-do wakes up, he is informed that something has happened which has caused a manager to be seriously injured. Seok-do then asked one of the workers who were there to tell the story of the attack. Seok-do was informed that one of the girls had reported that she was attacked by a karaoke customer there. She then went to the customer's room with his manager. It turned out that the customers were Jang Chen and his 2 henchmen earlier. When she arrived at the room, his manager immediately banged Jang Chen's henchman's head because his employee was being treated rudely. Jang Chen stopped him just as his henchmen were about to hit the manager. He then chose to go and apologize to the manager. But when Jang Chen was about to leave, the manager provoked Jang Chen and made him angry. Jang Chen and his 2 lackeys directly attacked the manager mercilessly. Jang Chen hit the manager's head with a bottle and cut off his hand with the axe he always carried. The karaoke owner becomes furious and plans to find the suspect who cut off his employee's hand even though he was prevented by Seok-do. Meanwhile, Seok-do and other police officers continue their investigation to find Jang Chen and his henchmen. The next day, Jang Chen meets with Seung-woo to determine which gangster group will be their next target. Seung-woo said that another gangster group called the Isu Gang then controlled the Chinatown area in their district. On the other hand, Seok-do is on the CCTV at the karaoke place to find out where Jang Chen and his 2 henchmen went. Since he still hasn't gotten any leads, Seok-do comes to see Jang Soo to ask if he knows or has anything to do with Jang Chen. But Jang Soo doesn't know anything about him. Shortly after, the police were shocked by discovering the mutilated body parts of On Sung-tae, the boss of the Venom Gang. Based on these findings, Seok-do and his team concluded that Jang Chen did not belong to any gangster group in the district. He carried out all his actions by himself without orders from anyone. On the other hand, Jang Chen and his 2 henchmen and other members of the Venom Gang came to the Isu Gang's gambling place to take over the place from them. After the entire Isu Gang members were beaten up by Jang Chen's henchmen, Jang Soo had no other choice but to hand over his gambling place to Jang Chen. After successfully defeating the Isu Gang, Jang Chen and his henchmen began to dominate the district by defeating the gangster groups there one by one. Seung-woo starts to feel frustrated by Jang Chen's brutal and careless attitude. Especially when Seung-woo finds out that his wife is having an affair with Jang Chen. He becomes even angrier and feels betrayed. Therefore, he plans to kill Jang Chen by doing it himself. The next day, while Seok-do and the other police officers are having dinner at a restaurant, Seok-do accidentally meets Jang Chen and his 2 henchmen. He immediately tried to arrest Jang Chen and his henchmen, but his efforts failed because his police colleague Kang Hong-suk was seriously injured by hot water. Jang Chen and his henchmen then managed to escape. That same night, Seung-woo fights with his wife because of his wife's affair with Jang Chen. The henchmen of the karaoke owner come to Seung-woo and beat him. Seung-woo is tortured by the karaoke owner so that he is willing to tell where Jang Chen is. However, the karaoke owner did not get any information because he had never known the hiding location of Jang Chen. Seok-do comes to his regular restaurant for dinner alone the next night. A boy accidentally saw the wound on Seok-do's elbow, then immediately treated Seok-do's wound. The boy's kind act left an impression on him. The scene continues to the moment where the Isu Gang tries to destroy Jang Chen's gambling place because Jang Soo still doesn't want his gambling place to be taken by Jang Chen. As a result, a fight between Jang Chen's henchmen and the Isu Gang group was unavoidable. Seok-do, who accidentally to be there, managed to catch one of Jang Chen's henchmen. Other henchmen, who managed to escape, immediately informed Jang Chen about the incident. Hearing this, Jang Chen became annoyed and intended to take revenge on Jang Soo. Even though Seok-do had caught his henchmen, he couldn't get any clues because Jang Chen's henchmen didn't want to say anything. The next day, Jang Chen and his partner came to the place where Jang Soo was celebrating his wedding. His henchmen made a commotion in the place, and he instantly killed Jang Soo with an axe he had brought. The commotion angered the district police commissioner, and he planned to transfer all these cases to another unit. But Seok-do prevents him and promises to arrest all the gangsters in the district until the commissioner gets a promotion. On the other hand, Jang Chen is making a deal with a wealthy businessman to kill the boss of the karaoke owner. He said he was willing to do the job if paid a very high fee. When Jang Chen and the businessman were negotiating, suddenly, the henchman of the karaoke owner came and intended to kill Jang Chen. Unfortunately, Jang Chen managed to escape with Seung-woo by car. In the escape, Seung-woo almost killed Jang Chen but failed because Jang Chen's henchmen helped him and immediately killed Seung-woo. Seok-do and the police are still trying to gather information to find and arrest Jang Chen. First, Seok-do goes to a karaoke place and asks the boss of the karaoke owner not to make a fuss anymore. Then he and other police officers asked for help from residents in the Chinatown area to help them document all the movements of gangster groups around them and report them to the police. However, things got even more complicated when Captain John turned over the only informant they had. Zhang Chen's henchmen, whom they had previously arrested, to the Chinese police. The two Chinese police officers brought Zhang Chen's henchmen and offered him a special deal. The Chinese policeman promised to release him if he and Zhang Chen were willing to become distributors for the black market of drugs smuggled from China into Korea. The policeman even gave him a drug sample to convince him, and he immediately agreed. These offers were a strategy from Seok-do and the police to find out where Zhang Chen was and arrest him. At first, Zhang Chen was still not convinced and thought that the offer was just a trap, but after seeing the drug samples brought by his henchmen, he immediately believed and agreed to cooperate. At this point, Zhang Chen and his henchmen fell into the trap set by Seok-do and the police. The next day, Zhang Chen's henchmen contacted the Chinese police officer to ask where their meeting location was. Then Zhang Chen's henchmen came to the location determined by the Chinese police. Meanwhile, Zhang Chen and his other henchmen went to the karaoke place to kill the boss of the karaoke owner. His henchmen and the karaoke owner's members fight while Zhang Chen tries to kill the karaoke owner's boss, who manages to escape. Zhang Chen managed to injure the boss of the karaoke owner, and then he escaped to the recycling center. Just as Zhang Chen was running away, other police officers saw him and immediately followed him. Shortly after, Seok-do managed to secure Zhang Chen's henchmen and other gangster members. He got messages that Zhang Chen was at a recycling center. He heads quickly to the location to catch Zhang Chen. Unfortunately, after he arrived at the location, Zhang Chen managed to escape and ran to the restaurant that Seok-do used to go to. At the restaurant, Zhang Chen called the wealthy businessman who hired him to immediately transfer the payment to his account. The restaurant owner and the boy who worked there were accidentally caught while calling the police, so they were beaten by Zhang Chen. Seok-do then finds out Zhang Chen plans to return to China from that boy. He then contacted the karaoke owner to find the wealthy businessman who had hired Zhang Chen. After capturing the wealthy businessman, Seok-do tells the wealthy businessman to pretend to pay Zhang Chen and take him to the airport. After Zhang Chen received his payment, he immediately left for the airport, but Seok-do was already waiting for him when he arrived. They both fought very fiercely. Seok-do had fallen several times, but he managed to get up, and in the end, he managed to beat Zhang Chen. After this was over, the Garibong District police finally arrested 30 gangsters, including Zhang Chen and his two henchmen. Their success, in this case, has increased their publicity, and the captain was getting promoted. Seok-do and his fellow police officers can now enjoy the Chinatown area of his unit as a place of peace and clean of the chaos of gangsters. The moral that we can learn from this movie is sometimes creating a peaceful environment takes a sacrifice and an intense struggle, and good things will always side with those who want to fight for it.